350 kilowatts of charging power, more than 400 miles of range, 0 to 60 in just over 3 seconds. These aren't random numbers. They're the opening lines of a machine that promises to redraw the map of what an electric grand tourer should be. And today, the Polestar 5 isn't just a card to look at. It's a statement. But here's the thing. Numbers on a page can dazzle. They can make you pause, but they don't always tell the full story. Will this car really live up to the hype, or is it destined to become another forgotten headline in the rapid-fire race of EVs? Stick with me, because as we unravel the Polestar 5, you're going to find yourself asking the same question I did. Could this finally be the electric car that even Porsche has to look over its shoulder for? Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's ground this. Polestar isn't just some random startup that popped out of nowhere. It's the sibling brand to Volvo, both under the umbrella of the massive Chinese automotive group Geely. That's the corporate DNA. But what makes the 5 different is that it's not sharing bones with a Volvo anymore. No borrowed chassis, no parts bin compromises. This is the first car on Polestar's own purpose-built aluminum architecture, engineered right here in the UK. And right there, the stakes rise. Because when a company says, this is our defining project, this is our foundation for the future, they're putting everything on the line. And the Polestar 5 is exactly that kind of gamble. So what do you get when you roll the dice this big? Let's start with the beating heart, the battery and charging setup. Underneath the sleek body, every Polestar 5 hides a massive 106 kilowatt-hour usable battery pack. To put it in perspective, that's enough to power a small household for days. It's tied into an 800-volt system, which isn't just some engineering brag. It means less waiting around while your car guzzles electrons. On a perfect day hooked up to a rare but growing 350 kilowatt charger, the 5 can go from 10 to 80% in just 22 minutes. Less time than it takes for a coffee date to turn awkward. But here's the twist. Try finding one of those ultra-rapid chargers in the wild, and you'll realize this is a car almost built for the future's infrastructure, not today's. At home, plugging into your wall box, you're looking at around 11 hours for a full refill. A whole night's sleep, in other words. But here's where the plot thickens. 2 versions, 2 different flavors of power. If range is what matters to you, the dual motor model is your ticket. 737 horsepower, a hefty 599 pound-feet of torque, 4-wheel drive, and a sprint to 60 in 3.8 seconds. Range? Up to 416 miles officially. Impressive. But if your pulse quickens at raw speed, there's the performance version. That one pushes out a colossal 871 horsepower, 749 pound-feet of torque, and claws its way to 60 in 3.1 seconds. The cost? Range drops to 351 miles. It's a simple but brutal trade. How much are you willing to sacrifice for half a second quicker acceleration? And remember, Porsche's Taycan Turbo S, one of the fiercest rivals, still edges it out with a mind-bending 2.1 second run. But performance isn't always measured by stopwatch numbers. It's measured by how a car makes you feel behind the wheel, how it bends the rules of practicality, how it holds up on a long stretch of road. That's where the Polestar 5 needs to show it's more than math. So, let's open the boot. 365 liters. Not groundbreaking, but clever. The access is easy, the floor folds halfway to reveal hooks for bags, and there's an underfloor well. Up front, under the bonnet, another 62 liters, enough for cables, backpacks, or a couple of grocery bags. Useful, but here's the catch. Porsche's Taycan? Bigger boot, bigger frunk. And if you buy the estate-style Cross Turismo version of that car, you're in another league of practicality. So where does Polestar fight back? With the interior experience. Step into the rear, and you'll notice something bold. There is no rear window. None, just like the Polestar 4. Instead, light floods in from a massive glass roof, the largest Polestar has ever fitted. 2 meters long, wide enough to stretch almost wall to wall. The back is laid out in what they call a 4+1 setup, meaning there's technically a middle seat, but really it's more of an armrest console with controls for massage and ventilation. Luxurious? Definitely. Comfortable? For most, yes. At 177 centimeters, headroom feels fine, but stretch closer to 6 feet and your hair might just skim the roof. Legroom, though? Generous. Long journeys won't feel like torture here. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. The absence of a rear window is odd. Polestar swaps it for a digital rearview mirror fed by a camera, and if you've never used one, it takes some getting used to. On the Polestar 4, it felt like a gimmick. Will the 5 do better? Time will tell, but it's a risk that not everyone will love. Still, look around and you realize the atmosphere here is crafted with intent. Materials feel solid, expensive, carefully considered. It's not just another cabin, it's a statement that this car is here to challenge Porsche not just on power, but on refinement. Now slide into the driver's seat and the mood shifts again. The seats, developed with Recaro, hug you snugly. You sit low, almost sports car-like. In front of you, a 9-inch digital driver display. Above, a head-up display stretching 9.5 inches. And the centerpiece, a towering 14.5-inch portrait touchscreen that runs Google's software straight out of the box. No fumbling with clunky in-house systems. Maps, Assistant, apps, all integrated, and unlike older Polestar models that locked your bottom tiles to phone and media, the 5 lets you customize 4 tiles however you want. Smart, flexible, and intuitive. The sting? At launch, no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto mirroring. For some, that's a deal breaker. Polestar says they'll add it later, but when? But beyond screens and specs, it's the details that whisper truths about a car's DNA. Take the steering wheel buttons. They feel cheap, plasticky. Worse, on the Polestar 4, they sometimes stopped working altogether. That can't happen on a car aiming at Porsche-level credibility. So, Polestar still has gremlins to exercise. And yet, touch the materials, slam the door, rest your arm on the padded center console, and the impression is unmistakable. This feels premium. This feels serious. You can almost sense the engineers pushing to make every piece count because they know who they're up against. Now let's talk weight, because numbers matter here too. Aluminum frame or not, the Polestar 5 tips the scales at 2,500 kilograms. That's heavy. Even the performance version trims only a little at 2,353. Compare that to the heaviest Taycan, which can still manage to be about 150 kilos lighter. So the question becomes, will adaptive suspension and clever drive modes be enough to disguise that bulk? 3 modes promise to balance comfort and sportiness, but again, only real-world driving will tell if this machine feels nimble or merely powerful. So what do all these numbers add up to? On paper, you're looking at outrageous numbers. A sharp Scandinavian design language, an interior that can stand toe-to-toe with Stuttgart's best, and a brand that's clearly staking its future on this model. But will it deliver once the honeymoon phase fades? That's the million-dollar question. If it drives as well as it looks and charges as fast as it claims, Porsche might genuinely have a fight on their hands. If not, the Polestar 5 could risk becoming one of those cars remembered more for its press release than its presence on the road. And yet the story doesn't end here. The Polestar 5 isn't alone. It's the beginning of a new family. The 6, a drop-top sibling, is slated for 2026. The 7, arriving closer to 2028, will shift gears entirely and becoming the new entry-level car to replace the Polestar 2. In other words, the 5 isn't just a standalone flagship. It's the blueprint, the DNA for what's to come. So here's where I'll leave you. Not with a sales pitch, but with a thought. We're standing at a strange crossroads in the car world. For decades, the badge on the hood dictated the conversation. German luxury, Italian passion, Japanese precision. But what happens when a Swedish brand with Chinese backing builds a car that ticks every box and dares to stare Porsche straight in the eyes? If the Polestar 5 can back its bold numbers with real-world brilliance, then years from now, we might not talk about it as a rival to the Taycan. We might talk about it as the moment the guard truly began to change. So the question for you is this: when the future pulls up to the curb and offers you a seat, will you step in or will you stand back and watch others drive it first? Because make no mistake, the Polestar 5 isn't asking politely. It's challenging everything we thought we knew about what an electric grand tourer could be. And that's the story worth following next.